Hello everyone, I'm Riya Gandhi and welcome back to my channel. This video is specifically for those who gave their UGC NET English exam in June 2025. A lot of students who have given their exam this time, they are feeling the same thing, and that is what just happened. So a lot of students are feeling extremely frustrated, disappointed, and even sad. There's this common feeling that we see coming across through social media, through what my students have been also telling me, that it was not just a very tricky paper, but it was very unexpected, very unfamiliar, and it seems that we might have to change our approach towards UGC NET English completely. Right? So this video is specifically for that. In this video, I'm going to begin by addressing some of the common challenges, by some of the common pain points that almost all of the students faced while they were giving their exam. Secondly, I'm going to break down paper 1 in brief and then provide a detailed analysis of paper 2. And finally, I will provide you with the most important strategy that you can keep in mind for December 2025 UGC NET English exam. Because based on this particular paper, it seems that we will have to change our strategy completely. Right? So please keep your pens and notebooks with you and note down some of the most important things. So next time in your December attempt, you can keep all of them in your mind. So first, let us understand some of the common challenges that the students face during the exam. So in June 2025 paper, the questions were not just from literature, but they were also from other disciplines like history and linguistics. And when the students found that out, they were completely confused, right? Because the common thing that they thought during this process was that I have to learn about literature, I have to learn about English literature. Why am I also supposed to answer questions related to history or questions related to linguistics for that matter? But understand, guys, that when we talk about it, linguistics is inherently a part of English language, right? But then again, there were certain questions which were completely out of the box, which were completely unexpected, and I can totally understand your situation. Not just that, the students also faced a lot of time management issues because of those concept-heavy, statement-based questions, right? So those statement-based questions had a lot of layers to it. They were extremely complex and they required multiple interpretations. So in this process, to keep your head cool, to keep that calm is very difficult. Another major problem that a lot of students faced was that there was a shift from the canonical writers to emerging voices in this particular exam, right? So if you look at the previous year question papers, you will realize that there will always be a question related to Chaucer. There will always be a question related to Shakespeare and questions related to some of the most canonical writers in British literature. But this time, priority was given to lesser known writers, right? Like voices from the 20th and 21st century. So modern age literature was given more priority this time, right? And apart from that, there were also lesser known writers, terms, concepts that students didn't know of, and they were sort of caught off guard in the exam hall because of that. Second, because of all of these things, they found out that there were very undefined syllabus boundaries. Because of this change in the pattern of the questions, the students were confused as to what is included in the syllabus, what is not included in the syllabus, and because of this, they weren't able to understand how to go about, how to navigate all of these things. Right, so this was the quick overview of the challenges and the problems that the students faced in the exam hall while giving the exam. And definitely based on this, one can say that this time the June 2025 exam, especially for UGC NET English, was tough, and it's completely different. Having said that, now we are going to begin with a breakdown of paper 1 and paper 2. So starting with paper 1, general consensus about this particular section is that a lot of students find it to be comparatively easier than paper 2, which is good. It is definitely going to help them increase their score, boost their overall score of the exam. But there were certain major changes that were also introduced in paper 1 which cannot be ignored. So what were these changes exactly? If you look at the previous year question papers and the syllabus of paper 1, you'll know that there are 10 units in paper 1. And in the question papers, there will always be at least 3 to 4 questions from each unit. But this time, this pattern was dropped off. There were some units that were completely left untouched and some units which were overrepresented. That is why there was more focus on research-based questions. So there were questions related to research methodology, steps of research, MLA citation styles, etc. But this change in the pattern is also for a reason, guys. Please understand this. So last year, NTA made it compulsory that if you want to be a PhD scholar, if you want to do your PhD in India, you will have to pass the UGC NET English exam, right? Because of this, especially when you have to do a PhD, you will have to do research in the sense that you will have to familiarize yourself with certain research methodologies, the steps of research, and all of those things. That is why the NET exam is basically testing your competency in that. Please understand it. And if this is actually the scenario, then you will find more research-based questions in the upcoming cycles as well. So please prepare accordingly. Apart from research-based questions, there were also questions related to communication, right? Questions related to linguistics were also asked in paper 1, right? Apart from that, there were questions related to ICT, higher education, at the same time questions related to educational policy, all of these things. So definitely paper 1 was within the syllabus, but it was also pretty moderate in terms of the kind of questions and the question patterns that were asked this time. Having said that, now let's do a detailed analysis of paper 2 of UGC NET English exam. So talking about paper 2, what we generally used to do before was we used to give more weightage to British literature, then Indian English literature, literary theories, criticism, Dalit literature, and so on and so forth, right? But this time we see that this pattern is completely changed. This time, more priority has been given to literary theories and criticism. And it is for the very same reason, because as a PhD scholar, as a PhD student, you are going to apply a lot of literary theories, right? You're going to look at certain texts from critical lenses. So it is essential for you to develop a foundational understanding of these literary theories. Right? So more importance we see over here given to literary theory and criticism, especially to some of the most important terms, right? So the concepts and terms that we see repeatedly over here are bricolage, right? Ideology, and definitely panopticism. So related to panopticism, I hear a couple of questions were asked, and panopticism is a concept given by Michel Foucault. Right? Then questions related to culture, chronotope. Chronotope is also a concept provided by Mikhail Bakhtin. Then concept of deterritorialization. Then again, concepts related to linguistics were asked frequently, like pidgin and Creole. right? Ontotheology. So all of these questions may seem like they are out of the box and they are completely unexpected and unfamiliar, but understand, guys, definitely except from the linguistic terms, that concepts like panopticism, deterritorialization, culture, circuit of culture, bricolage, they are very much related to literary theories. They are concepts very inherent to the literary theories, right? Even match the following questions. They weren't what students had expected or what the PYQs basically reflected. They were also very concept heavy in the sense that they required your deeper understanding of it. So the paper pattern, the kind of questions that came in this particular exam will require you to move from a factual preparation or the factual understanding of those works, those writers or those literary terms, to having a conceptual understanding of those terms, concepts, writers, works, etc. Right? So moving forward with this, apart from these terms, apart from these literary concepts, you also find, yes, questions related to cultural studies, right? So cultural studies has become a very important literary area, literary discipline in academia right now, because it is more interdisciplinary. Right? So a lot of students previously would, especially while conducting research in literature, they would just stick to one text and apply a theory to it. But now that's not enough. With the horizons of academia expanding, especially in literature, you have to open up new gateways to various other disciplines as well. Right? So you will have to open to psychology, you will have to open to cultural studies, right? Understand the culture around us, understand why the text you are reading right now is relevant to your context. And that is why you see that in these questions or in this particular paper, the horizon of questions has also expanded. Right? Questions related from other disciplines, related to other disciplines are also asked. I know it's not fair. I know that you cannot prepare with everything under the sun approach, right? That prepare everything at the same time and not remember anything at the end of the day. It's impossible. But there are certain things which are sure shot are going to be asked, right? So prepare that accordingly, and we're going to cover these parts and these concepts later down in this video as well. Fine. Now moving on with the topics that were asked within literary theory, we also find post-colonial criticism. Understand, guys, that post-colonial criticism will definitely be asked in the upcoming cycles as well. Right? Because post-colonial criticism becomes one of the most inherent parts of literature, especially in India today. Then for paper 2, also a lot of importance was given to research. Research is a topic that is oftentimes just asked and just limited to paper 1. But this was also asked in paper 2 as well, because again, as PhD student, as PhD scholars, you will have to conduct research, and you should have that understanding also of the citation styles, of the MLA 9 citation style, which is very much in common right now, is required for you to know the methodologies of it. So this was also asked in this paper. But apart from that, when we talk about British literature, the weightage and the kind of questions that were asked related to British literature, they were not very traditional, or they were not common to how the PYQs were asked, right? So I think there was no question, I believe, related to Shakespeare, but most of the questions were from modern period. So questions related to D.H. Lawrence were asked, questions related to Virginia Woolf and her contribution in feminist theory, right? Then related to Joseph Conrad were asked. Now, in my previous video, especially last year, while I was talking about some of the most frequently asked questions, I did mention that modern age and British literature is a very common topic that is frequently asked, right? So this is what we see repeatedly over the cycles and the papers that have been passed down, right? So please understand that, and whenever you sit down to prepare for your UGC NET English exam, thoroughly prepare modern age and British literature. Apart from that, there were questions related to Kipling. Also, I believe a question related to George Eliot was also asked, right? Apart from the modern age in English literature, you also see a lot of questions appearing related to the Victorian period. So the Victorian period, modern age and the contemporary literature are very, very commonly asked in UGC NET English exam. Apart from that, yes, a question related to Urtzi Hyung's roman was also asked. Urtzi Hyung's roman basically means the educational novel, which talks about the formal schooling and training. Right. Apart from that, there were certain questions related to the writers from the Romantic period, like Charles Lamb, Thomas de Quincey, right? And then you also have John Stuart Mill. So if you look at it from a bigger perspective, right, especially in terms of the British literature, the questions are related to familiar writers and familiar authors. But when you talk about literary theories and criticism, they did go into detail and they did test your conceptual understanding of it. Apart from that, when you talk about Indian English literature, again, the same scenario, some important and familiar names are present, right, in terms of Girish Karnad's Hayavadana. Now, Girish Karnad's Hayavadana is a very repeated question. Right, if you look at the PYQs, you will find Girish Karnad's works like Hayavadana or Nagamandala. They are frequently asked. Apart from that, there is also one of the chronology-based question, I believe, that was asked in this paper related to the most important trio in Indian English literature, and that is Mulkraj Anand, R.K. Narayan, and Raja Rao. Right? There was one question related to Rabindranath Tagore. And then there were no questions from Dalit literature, which was also very surprising considering that a lot of questions related to Dalit literature were frequently asked in the previous year question papers. Right, so this seems to be the general understanding of especially British literature and Indian English literature, wherein certain familiar names are there. And there are certain questions which are completely out of the box. Having said that, I find that British literature and Indian English literature, they sort of take a backseat in this year's paper. More questions are asked related to literary theories and literary criticism. So this is very, very important shift. And I believe that this shift is going to stick for a long period, considering that the changes that were introduced last year. Right? So please keep these things in mind. Apart from that, considering world literature, you have questions related to Patrick White. I already have a world literature playlist wherein I have covered Patrick White in detail. Right? There was a question related to the father of South African poetry, questions related to Henry James. Right, again, very, very important. Having said that, guys, please understand that this may not be the most accurate paper analysis right now because I don't have the paper in my hand. Right, this is just based on memory and what the students have been talking about across the internet. Right, but some things are pretty clear. Right, based on this understanding and this analysis. The first is that there is an increased focus on research in both paper 1 as well as paper 2. Secondly, when it comes to paper 2, especially for English, more focus is put on literary theories and criticism. At the same time, particularly focus is on cultural studies, post-colonial criticism, feminism, Marxism, right? Apart from that, when you talk about British literature, the focus is more on the Victorian period and most importantly on the modern age. When we talk about Indian English literature, the most important writers like R.K. Narayan, Raja Rao, Rabindranath Tagore, Mulkraj Anand, all of their questions are asked, but definitely, but there are certain questions which do feel out of the box. Having said that, having had this clear understanding of certain changes in this paper pattern, now let's break down your ultimate strategy. How do you need to prepare from now onwards, especially for your December 2025 paper? So starting with paper 1, I think the approach, the strategy remains the same, and that is reading all the 10 units thoroughly, preparing the numerical questions, the logical reasoning questions, and also making notes from all the theoretical topics. But at the same time, you should focus more on research aptitude. Understand the citation styles, understand the methodologies, the steps of research. It becomes extremely important. Understand communication chapter. A lot of times communication chapter is taken very lightly, but then there are certain topics within communication, like communication models, that they might ask you in December 2025. Who knows, right? So understand that. Definitely focus on higher education and ICT. And yes, comprehension. Read in English, prepare in English. This will increase your reading speed. This will help you in comprehending the main ideas and the concepts faster. Now we talk about paper 2. The strategy that you need to adopt for paper 2, and understand, guys, that this is where the real change needs to happen. Earlier, a lot of students, they used to prepare in the last minute, right? In the last 1 month or 2 months, and through shortcuts or somehow or some other thing, they used to pass and basically have that factual understanding of it. But now with this change in the paper pattern, it's not possible. So start as early as possible. Don't wait till your master's is over or your bachelor's is over, or don't wait till November or October or some of the other, good time or anything like that. Start as early as possible, because you will need to have a very deeper conceptual understanding of these concepts, right, of those literary terms. And understand also that literary theories can get pretty intricate, can get pretty complex at certain points. So you will need that time beforehand to read, understand, make notes, and then retain, right? Second most important strategy that you have to apply right now is start studying in English. Right? Because if you study in any other language apart from English, it's going to hamper you while reading those statement heavy, those concept heavy, statement based questions. Because it might be complex, it might be intricate, and you might lose the train of thought towards the end of the question. So it is very important to practice your your preparation, do your preparation in English, right? The third most important strategy is that I've already repeated it over and over again throughout this video, is that more conceptual based questions are asked. So your approach has to be in that manner itself. You will have to prepare the facts, right? So in which year the work was published, by whom. That's the basic and that's the factual understanding. But beyond that, you will also need to have that conceptual understanding, right? So it is not just enough that Michel Foucault gave the concept of panopticism, but you also need to understand what panopticism is. What is a function of panopticism? Why did he talk about panopticism, right? Then yes, definitely read emerging theories, have an idea about the emerging theories, because I think last time a question was asked related to blue humanities. What is blue humanities, right? So this was something this was something out of the blue, right? People did not understand it, and a lot of students were confused as to what is blue humanities, right? So prioritize these emerging theories, and definitely think like an assistant professor, right? Because that's who you are preparing to become. And when I say think like an assistant professor, I mean to say that start reading research papers, start attending conferences, right? Familiarize yourself with original texts. Now, I'm not saying that read all the original text, because that's practically impossible and it takes time, right? But at least familiarize yourself with some of the most important texts. For example, Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own. It is a pretty easy and understandable text. You can start reading that, and it's also very, very short. So you can start reading that as well. Stay updated with academic debates. What's happening in academia right now, as in the interdisciplinary research trends that are appearing in academia right now, that you can get through conferences and seminars, right? Go through your BA and MA syllabi. Understand some of the most important authors' works there as well, right? Yes, definitely I will be preparing videos in this particular manner only, where it will only help you get this conceptual understanding of literary theories and criticism and research. So look out for this space as well. And with this, we now come to an end of our video. I hope you got some clarity regarding the kind of paper that went and how to go about. And for all those who have already given their exam, I can understand your situation. I can understand your frustration and the kind of disappointment that you are facing right now. More than anything, this exam has left you feeling even more empty, thinking that after all this preparation, you had to give this particular exam. Don't feel disheartened. Accept this change wholeheartedly, and also understand that everybody is sailing on the same boat, right? So don't worry about the cutoff, right? It's going to be a little less than it was previously. So don't worry about that right now. Take some rest, have some rest, and think about how you want to go about and how you want to navigate later on, right? If you found this analysis useful, please like this video, drop your questions in the comment section below, and share it with your fellow UGC NET English aspirants as well. In the upcoming weeks, I will be covering and decoding certain important terms that were asked in this particular video. So look out for this space and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching this video till the end. I'll see you in the next one.